Welcome to Stillworks and Brewing. My name is Randy. This is a channel that's all about home distillation and brewing. Okay, today what we're going to talk about is the dreaded stuck fermentation. It's not all that bad. Okay, first things first. If this is a channel that you like, please consider subscribing. And if there's any subjects that you want to talk about or see, please leave a comment below and we'll see what we can get to. All right, well, let's get started. Okay, so you think you have a stuck fermentation. First things first, we're going to have to gather up some information. Some of the stuff that we're going to need is what was your starting gravity? I hope you always check at, once you put your wort, your must, your wash into your fermentation bucket, always make sure you get a starting fermentation or a starting gravity reading. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is you make sure you always check your mash temperature. All right, so other information we might need is what's the current gravity? Is the seal on the fermentation bucket good? And did the fermentation start at all? Or did the fermentation start and then stop? With all this information, we can figure out what's going on. Okay, so one of the first things we want to check, and we're going to go over, did the fermentation did not start at all? Okay, so number one, what you want to make sure you do is, what was your starting gravity? Did you have sugar in your wash? The next thing is, was the temperature correct? Okay, and the third thing I would say is, let's check the seal on the fermenter. So let's go check that. Okay, so here's the fermenter, and sometimes I'm going to check, if you just touch lightly on the lid, see how she will get some bubbles coming up? So I would say that the seal around the bucket is working. Because what can happen is if you have a leak around the seal, that instead, gas is going to take the path of least resistance. Okay, so but with me pushing on this and you can see the water rise in the bubbler, I know that this seal is working. So if you think that all of your environment for your wash is good and you didn't get any activity from the yeast, well, I think at this point in time maybe we'll try to repitch some yeast and then see what happens. So that would be my suggestion. Okay. Next is fermentation started and then it stopped. All right, so it's, like I said, we're going to need to gather up some information. Is what is our starting gravity? What is the temperature of the wash? And what is the current gravity? So in my case, the fermentation did start and then it stopped. So let's see what happened and what we can do about it. Okay, so I don't really see any, it's been about 3 days and I'm not seeing any activity in the bubblers. So if I press on the top, like I said before, if I press on top of the bucket, there is a good seal, because as soon as I lightly touch on it, I can see it, I'm pushing out some bubbles. So let's take off the lid. Now, I do notice those, since just wiggling around a little bit, I'm seeing a little bit of activity on top. So maybe it just slowed down. But one thing we can do is, we know what the starting gravity was. Now we can check the current gravity, and then we know what it's doing. So let's check that. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to check our temperature. And I almost think, well, it's about 68 degrees. Okay, so now let's take a sample. And I'm going to use a wine thief. 1.04. I don't think I had a stuck fermentation. I think it just got done early. I mean, I started with 1.085, and then right now I am at 1.04. So I don't believe I had a stuck fermentation. I think what happened is it just got done early. Okay. So it looks like I didn't have a stuck fermentation. It must just got done a little bit earlier than I expected. So what I'll probably end up doing is leaving it finish out just a little bit more and help it settle out for another probably 3 or 4 days, maybe, you know, something like that. Because what I did is I started at 1.085, and when I checked the current gravity, it was at 1.004. So the yeast did do its job and it just slowed down. All right. So what do you do though if you do have a stuck ferment that like this? Some things you can do is just give it a very gentle stir. Not you know, take a paddle, you know, put star sand on it, and just get a real gentle stir. Don't try to get any oxygen, and don't even stir it very much. Just, you know, maybe once around or something like that. The next thing you do is the sample that you took out to get your current gravity, save that, put it into a sanitized jar, and add a little yeast to it and see what happens. And make sure that your temperature is correct too, because if it's too cold, the yeast might slow way down, or if it's too hot, you know, you could kill them. You know, but that's, I think you got to get up to like 110 degrees before you start killing the yeast. So, especially this time of year, it might be a little bit cold. Okay. I hope this was useful to you. You'll find sometimes when things go wrong, it ain't as bad as you seem, and it can be corrected most of the time, and still come out with a great product. So, as I always say, thanks for watching. Enjoy the adventure. We'll see you next time.